Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're tackling some pretty big concepts, the kind that might just make you rethink everything you thought you knew about, well, pretty much everything.
Sounds intriguing.
Our cosmic roadmap for this journey is Cosmic Law, a book by Dean Brown and Wenden Wiegand.
Ah, yes. A fascinating exploration of 8 fundamental laws that, according to the authors, govern, well, everything. And not just from a scientific perspective.
Right, we're talking physics, philosophy, spirituality, the whole shebang.
It's really a unique blend of ideas. What strikes me is how the book takes complex physics, throws in some age-old philosophical ideas, even personal anecdotes, and somehow weaves it all into this framework of 8 cosmic laws. These laws, they argue, shape our reality, both the tangible and the intangible.
8 laws that govern the entire universe. Okay, I'm already feeling a little overwhelmed.
Don't worry, the book breaks down really well. It starts by dividing these 8 laws into 2 categories. The laws of form and the laws of process.
Okay, I think I can handle that. Laws of form, laws of process. What's the difference?
Imagine the universe as a magnificent building. Think of the laws of form as the blueprints.
Got it. The foundation, the structure.
Exactly. And the laws of process. Think of them as the construction crew, the dynamic forces that bring those blueprints to life.
I love that analogy. Okay, so let's start with the blueprints, those laws of form. What's the first one?
The law of nothingness.
The law of nothingness. Okay, that sounds a little paradoxical. How can nothingness be a law?
It's a bit mind-bending, I'll admit. It suggests that everything we see and experience originates from and ultimately returns to a state of nothingness, a void of pure potential. Imagine the universe before the Big Bang. Silence. Stillness. But not emptiness.
Right, like that quote, silence is not empty, it's full of answers.
Exactly. And even quantum physics supports this. Apparently, even seemingly empty space is teeming with energy fluctuations.
Whoa. It's like everything is just waiting to emerge from that stillness, that potential. It makes me think about meditation, how quieting the mind can lead to those bursts of creativity and insight. Is that kind of what the book is getting at?
You're right on track. The book suggests that through practices like meditation, we can access this inner void, this wellspring of potential within each of us. It's about finding that stillness where fear and doubt dissolve and new possibilities can bloom.
Wow. Okay. I'm starting to see how these laws can be applied to our lives, not just to the universe as a whole. So we've got the law of nothingness, the starting point of everything. What's the next law of form?
The law of contraries.
Contraries, meaning opposites, like good and evil, light and dark.
Precisely. This law states that the universe evolves through the interplay of opposites, that classic push and pull we see everywhere. It's not just about the physical world either. Think about our thoughts, our relationships, our experiences. There's always that tension between opposites.
Right, like that saying, you can't have the sweet without the sour.
Exactly. Or how about this? We crave structure and predictability, yet we also need spontaneity and flexibility to keep things interesting. That's the law of contraries at play in our daily lives.
I never thought of it that way. So it's like a cosmic dance between these opposing forces that drives everything forward.
A beautiful way to put it. And speaking of hidden forces, that brings us to the next law of form, the law of concealment.
Okay, this sounds mysterious. What's concealed?
The law of concealment suggests that most of the universe remains hidden, waiting to be discovered. It's that idea that learning and uncovering truth is a gradual process, a journey of exploration.
I can see how that would apply to science, but what about our personal lives?
Think about those moments when you're grappling with a problem and suddenly the solution seems to appear out of nowhere, like a flash of insight. Or when you're learning a new skill and finally something clicks.
Oh, right. It's like the universe was holding back that piece of information until we were ready to receive it.
Precisely. The universe, according to this law, reveals itself gradually, piece by piece, keeping us engaged and curious.
Okay, so we have this process of uncovering what's hidden. What happens when we find it? What's the next law?
That's the law of revelation. Think of it as the culmination of the learning process, that aha moment when the pieces of the puzzle fall into place and truth reveals itself.
It's like those times when you finally grasp a concept you've been struggling with, or when you have a sudden realization that changes your whole perspective on something.
Precisely. Those moments of clarity, of profound understanding, that's the law of revelation in action.
Okay, we've covered the blueprints, the laws of form. I'm really curious about those dynamic construction crews you mentioned earlier, the laws of process.
Well, to understand them, the book uses this brilliant analogy, the stages of a day: dawn, noon, evening, and midnight. Each stage represents a phase in the cycle of existence.
Okay, I'm already hooked. Tell me more about this analogy.
Imagine the dawn, the sun rising, a new day beginning. That's the law of emanation, the law of creation.
So it's not just about the initial creation of the universe, but this ongoing force that keeps bringing new things into being.
You got it. It's that primal urge to create, that energy that drives the emergence of everything, from the Big Bang to the birth of a star to the sprouting of a seed.
And we're part of that process too, right? We create things, we bring ideas to life.
Exactly. We're not just passive observers. We're active participants in this cosmic dance of creation. Now, picture the noontime. The sun is at its peak, providing energy and sustenance. That's the law of sustenance.
Okay, so this law is about nourishing and sustaining everything that exists.
Precisely. It highlights this cosmic support system, this unseen hand that provides what's needed for life to flourish.
It's like that feeling of knowing you're being taken care of, even when you can't see how things will work out.
That's the law of sustenance at work. It's a reminder that we're not alone in this journey, that there's a force, a providence, that supports and guides us.
That's a comforting thought. But just like the day progresses, I guess we move on to the evening, right?
Yeah. Right. As the sun begins to set, we enter the phase represented by the law of dissolution.
So this law is about things coming to an end.
Exactly. It reminds us that nothing lasts forever, that everything eventually returns to that formless void.
That can be a tough concept to grapple with, especially when we think about loss and endings. But is there a more positive way to look at it?
Absolutely. The law of dissolution isn't about death or destruction. It's about completion, about cycles ending to make way for new beginnings.
Oh, I see. It's like the leaves falling from the trees in autumn so that new growth can emerge in the spring.
A perfect analogy. And that brings us to midnight, the final stage of our cosmic day, represented by the law of recapitulation.
Okay, what happens at midnight?
Think of it as a time for reflection, for taking stock of what we've learned and experienced. The law of recapitulation suggests that as we go through these cycles of creation, sustenance, and dissolution, we get to choose what we carry forward into a new existence.
So it's not just a random reset button being pressed. We actually have a say in what we take with us.
Exactly. It's like distilling our experiences down to their essence, the lessons learned, the love that endures. And speaking of love,
The book emphasizes love as being really important in this process, right?
absolutely. The book suggests that love is the most important thing we carry forward, that it transcends time and space, connecting us not only in this life but potentially beyond.
Wow. Okay, I'm definitely feeling the mind-bending effects of this deep dive. But I have to ask, we've covered these 8 laws, this incredible framework for understanding the universe. But how does it actually relate to us, to our everyday lives? That's what I'm really curious about.
That's where things get really exciting, and that's exactly what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive. We'll delve into how these seemingly abstract laws can offer practical wisdom for our relationships, our personal growth, and even our understanding of the world around us.
Okay, so we spent some time exploring these 8 cosmic laws. Quite a framework for understanding the universe, wouldn't you say?
Definitely a lot to unpack.
But now I'm really curious about how these laws, these grand concepts, actually play out in our everyday lives.
That's where things get really interesting, I think. These laws aren't just abstract theories. They can offer some pretty practical wisdom.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
But-
Practical wisdom. So where do we start?
Well, how about with that first law of form we talked about? The law of nothingness.
Right, the idea that everything emerges from and ultimately returns to a state of nothingness.
A void of pure potential, remember.
Yeah, and we talked about how meditation can help us tap into that inner void, right?
Exactly. But how does that translate to real-world practical stuff?
That's what I'm wondering.
Okay, well, think about it this way. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by a problem? Like your mind is just going in circles, can't find a solution?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Well, that's when the law of nothingness can be really helpful. By stepping back, quieting the mind, you create space for fresh perspectives to emerge.
It's like hitting the reset button on your brain, creating that mental space for solutions to appear.
Exactly. It's not about emptying your mind completely, but shifting from that state of frantic activity to a state of receptive stillness. It's in that stillness that those aha moments often happen.
It reminds me of how sometimes the best ideas come when you're not even trying to think about them, you know? Like when you're in the shower or out for a walk and boom, a solution pops into your head.
Exactly. That's the law of nothingness at work. And this principle isn't just for like creative problem solving either. Think about how fear of failure can hold us back.
Oh yeah, that fear can be paralyzing.
Right. But if we remember that everything begins and ends in this state of pure potential, that can be incredibly freeing. It allows us to approach challenges with more of a beginner's mind, without all that baggage of past mistakes.
That's a really powerful way to look at it. Okay, so the law of nothingness can help us overcome fear and find creative solutions. What about the law of contraries? We see opposites everywhere, but how can we actually use this law in our lives, like in our relationships, for example?
This law reminds us that harmony often comes from embracing, rather than resisting, those opposing forces.
Hmm.
For example, think about work-life balance. We all need focused energy for our careers, right?
Right.
But we also need rest, personal time, to rejuvenate. It's about finding that balance.
So it's not about eliminating one side of the equation, but finding that sweet spot where both opposites can coexist.
Exactly. And even enhance each other. In relationships, too, the law of contraries can be really helpful. It encourages us to embrace differences. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, we can view them as opportunities for growth and understanding.
Right. Wouldn't life be boring if everyone was exactly the same?
Exactly. It's about recognizing that each person brings a unique perspective. And those differences, when we honor and respect them, can actually make the relationship stronger.
Okay, now how about the law of concealment? We talked about how it fuels our curiosity, but how can we actively use this principle in our lives?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. Well, this law reminds us that there's always more to learn, more to uncover. It encourages us to stay curious, to keep asking questions, and to be open to new knowledge and experiences.
So it's not just about acquiring knowledge, but about cultivating a mindset of continuous learning.
Precisely. And the journey itself, that process of discovery, is often more valuable than reaching the destination, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, think about how exciting it is to start a new hobby or delve into a new subject or travel to a new place. It's all about that sense of exploration.
Exactly. The law of concealment invites us to embrace that feeling of wonder and keep exploring all that's out there.
It reminds me of how much we limit ourselves when we think we already know everything. Like, there's always a deeper layer to uncover, a new perspective to consider. But what happens when we actually do uncover those hidden truths? That's where the law of revelation comes in, right?
You got it. The law of revelation describes those aha moments, those flashes of insight that just illuminate our understanding.
Like those times when you've been wrestling with a problem and bam, the solution just hits you. Or you finally understand a concept that's been eluding you.
Exactly. And those moments can come from anywhere. A conversation, a book, a piece of art, even a random event. The key is to be open to them.
To cultivate that receptive mindset, right?
Yes. The law of revelation reminds us that the universe is constantly whispering wisdom to us, but it's up to us to listen. Okay, so we've talked about the laws of form, those foundational principles. Now let's dive into those dynamic laws of process, starting with the law of emanation.
Right. The dawn of our cosmic day. The law of creation.
Exactly. This law reminds us that we're not just passive observers in the universe. We're active participants, creators in our own right. Every thought we have, every action we take, every choice we make is part of that ongoing process of creation.
So it's not just about artists or inventors creating things, but about all of us, in our own way, shaping reality.
Precisely. Think about it. You create your reality through your choices, your relationships, your work, even your thoughts and emotions. The law of emanation encourages us to really tap into that creative power we all have.
That's a very empowering thought. It makes me think about how important it is to be mindful of what we're putting out into the world. We're literally creating with every thought and action.
Absolutely. Okay, now imagine we've created something new, we're energized, ready to go. What happens next?
I'm not sure. What does happen next?
Well, that's where the law of sustenance comes in, the noontime of our journey. This law reminds us that we're supported in everything we do, even when we feel alone or uncertain.
It's like having a cosmic safety net, a reminder that we're not alone.
Exactly. It suggests that there's a force, a providence, that's guiding and supporting us, providing us with exactly what we need to thrive.
This one really resonates with me. Have you ever had that experience where just when you needed it most, someone appeared to help you, or a situation just worked itself out?
Absolutely. That's the law of sustenance at work. But just like the day progresses, we move on to the evening, represented by the law of dissolution. This law reminds us that all things, no matter how much we cherish them, eventually come to an end.
That can be a difficult concept, especially when it comes to loss and endings.
It can be tough, but it's also a natural part of the cycle. Just like a forest fire can clear the way for new growth, endings in our lives can create space for new beginnings.
So it's about letting go of what no longer serves us, trusting that those endings are actually opportunities for something better.
Exactly. And that brings us to the law of recapitulation, the midnight hour, where we decide what we carry forward.
So we get to choose what we take with us into the next chapter of our lives.
Yes, it's about distilling the essence of our experiences, the lessons we've learned, the values we hold dear,
And the love we've cultivated, right?
especially the love. The book really emphasizes that. Love is timeless, it transcends, it connects us to something much bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so we've covered all 8 laws, how they can be applied to our lives. I have to admit, my head is spinning a little bit. What are some of the key takeaways, the things we should really remember?
Well, for me, it's that realization that we're not just insignificant specks in this vast universe. We're active participants, co-creators, shaping our reality.
That's pretty empowering. It reminds me that we have a responsibility to use that power wisely.
Absolutely. And I think another key takeaway is the interconnectedness of everything.
Mm.
These cosmic laws, even though they come from different disciplines, all point towards this idea that we're all connected.
It's like we've been given a cosmic compass, a set of guiding principles to make sense of it all. But how does this all tie together? What's the ultimate message, the big so what of these cosmic laws?
That's a great question. And it's something we'll definitely explore in the final part of our deep dive. We'll delve into the implications of these laws, how they point toward the deeper understanding of ourselves, our connection to the universe, the very nature of reality itself.
We've been exploring these 8 cosmic laws, from the very foundation of the universe to the forces that shape our lives. It's a pretty incredible framework.
It really is, isn't it?
But I'm still kind of grappling with how it all fits together. What's the ultimate message? What's the big takeaway from all of this?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And I think the answer lies in seeing these laws not just as individual principles, but as interconnected threads. They're like different facets of the same jewel,
Yeah.
each reflecting a different aspect of, well, reality itself.
So it's not about picking and choosing which laws we like, but about seeing them as a whole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that whole, those interconnected threads point towards a profound interconnectedness
Yeah.
between ourselves, the universe, and something, some force that's bigger than all of us.
That reminds me of the law of sustenance, that sense of being supported even when we can't see how things will work out. Is that connected to this idea of interconnectedness?
It absolutely is. It suggests that we're not just isolated individuals, but part of this vast web of energy constantly interacting, influencing each other. Think about those moments of synchronicity, those seemingly random events that line up perfectly with our needs or desires. Those might just be glimpses of this interconnectedness in action.
Oh, right. Like when you're thinking about someone and then they call you out of the blue, or you stumble upon exactly the information you need at just the right moment.
Exactly. It's almost as if the universe is conspiring to support us.
It's a pretty amazing thought. But I guess it's not always easy, right? Life can be challenging.
Oh, for sure. The law of contraries, remember. Challenges are part of life. But even those challenges, when we view them through this lens of cosmic law, can become opportunities for growth.
So instead of resisting those tough times, we can actually lean into them, knowing that they're guiding us towards something.
Towards something greater, yes. It's like that saying, the most beautiful diamonds are formed under intense pressure.
And that's where the law of recapitulation comes in, right? We get to choose what we take from those experiences, what we carry forward.
Exactly. The wisdom, the lessons, the love, all of that becomes part of our own unique contribution to the universe.
And that ties back to the law of emanation. We're all creators. We're shaping reality with every choice we make.
Exactly. The more we align ourselves with these cosmic laws, the more we can tap into our creative potential and contribute to, well, a better world.
It's like we're being given these tools, these cosmic laws, and we're being asked to use them to create something beautiful, something meaningful.
And don't forget the most powerful tool of all,
Yeah.
love. Cultivate love in your relationships, in your work, in your interactions with the world. It's the force that connects us all.
What a powerful message. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of these cosmic laws, but it's been an incredible journey.
It has. And I encourage everyone listening to explore these ideas further. See how they resonate with your own experiences. There's so much to discover.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the cosmic laws. We hope you leave feeling inspired, connected, and ready to create a life filled with purpose and meaning. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep shining your light.